Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All
Can you hear
awake?
me? Check.
Right. So I'm Moumita.
Hi, this is Varun.
So I think we'll start.
Check.
So before we start, actually, why this topic? And I think I see a lot of my friends in the audience, the friends from our analytics community. We must have heard this, right? When you go to a boardroom and the person is asking your MD, your CEO, um, have you used external data here? Have you dropped some external data into
Hello.
your model? Or maybe we must have heard this phrase. I can get external data, but how do I link it? We will not get linkage. And we drop it. We drop it completely, right? And to that, I think all of us would um, we have heard this in many cases, but it's really, really applicable to us here. Data, data everywhere, not a drop to add. And believe me, the drops are everywhere, not even in everywhere in the world, everywhere in your organization. You have to search it, bring it, link it, and that's the trick. That's the trick. So today, what we thought we will cover is from our experience between me and Varun. We'll have a sort of a discussion along with you guys because you have worked with external data. I don't think it's a topic. It's in decades we have talked about this topic. And we are going to talk about how we are using it. There are two important words in that title slide. Internalizing, external data we all know. Internalizing and normal. These two are the words which I really, really want to stress upon. So therefore, I think to the next, it does move like how we, ah,
Okay. File it comes.
very, very busy slide.
Yeah.
But I think Varun, if you want to talk about one of them, and
Sure.
I'll take up one more, how we are using external data in different use cases.
Yeah. So I think we are covering all the major functions normally an organizations have, and there are a lot of use cases which we are actually doing across different functions. So for example, I'll take one of them for a supply chain use case. This was for a leading manufacturing company, primarily trying to solve their procurement challenges from where to buy, how much to buy, etc. So I will not go into the use case detail, but I will directly jump to the data angle. So the use case was they have to predict the commodity which they are procuring on a regular basis. And the forecasting has to be done at a daily level, monthly level, quarterly level, and they want a short-term as well as a long-term view. So what we did, we started looking all the possible factors which can actually uh, the factors of the price forecasting which we are doing. We looked into the production data, the consumption data of the commodity, both in India as well as outside India, because the commodity which I am currently talking about is for a rubber, and India primarily produces rubber in Kerala and also import a lot of rubber from East Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and rubber shortages in any of them can actually have a deep impression on the prices. Normally used in most of the projects of forecasting or other market mix modeling, etc. Exchange rate, crude oil prices, inflation, temperature. So basically the use case was primarily all external data. So after we finalized, we built the models. Then we figured out, okay, now out of these 500, these are the 20 key factors which predict the demand, and I'm getting a decent accuracy to start with. We started building the ETL layer. We started building the web scraping engine. When some of the data obviously were having captcha code and the scrapers were not able to uh, uh, take the data out, we started building the automation layer. In fact, there were some paid websites where we used automation anywhere to actually put the username, password, and get the data. So data consumption happened through this. And the procurement team started using these models on a daily basis regularly to predict the price forecasting. So this is one of the interesting example where we used all the external data, which was coming from a real-time perspective, and the forecasting was happening on a daily basis. The second was from a sentiment. So market sentiments play a very, very key role when commodity happens. So for example, if the ship got stuck in the Panama uh, lake, or some unrest happens in Thailand, the market can go up and down on a day basis. The impact may not be significant, but for a day or two, it might come up and then go down. So how do we see those kind of fluctuations when we are building daily level predictive models? we build a sentiment analysis models. We actually go into the brains of the users who were actually reading the news and getting the sentiments. We extracted the data for 3 months, codified their brain, used NLP models, and in the first go, we were able to achieve 75% accuracy, and the objective is to go to 80 and 85. So I think these are the very interesting examples, both from only external data, how it is making an impact. It saves a lot of time. They don't need to go to different websites. They don't need to do the sentiments, whether it is a bullish segment or a bearish segment, but they were able to understand how these sentiments are playing. Moumita,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about the interesting location example we had?
Yeah. So now, if you see what Varun just mentioned, tell me, if we had to do commodity price forecasting, the percentage impact of a external variable is not to a tune of 5% on 10%, that okay, let's ignore that. We cannot. It is all attuned to a 70-80% of what we are actually predicting. Same he's talking about, say, a shipping or a logistic, so those business functions, they are core. Now let me come directly from ships and logistics to pizza eating, right? Now, if you just jump to pizzas, right, for ages, right, pizza companies have been opening a store, closing it, opening a store, closing it. Should I do a dark kitchen? Should I have two stores in one locality because it has so much demand? How much call center orders are getting dropped? There is a cost to that decision. You cannot go on doing this decision and have a wrong cost. So that is where data is available at a lat long level, at a 2 by 2 or 1 by 1 grid. It is available at a cohort level to the extent that I know that here is a grid which has people pinging or people searching for food items, lifestyle dinner. Why will a pizza company open in a place where, say, very interesting, if you see, there is a data which is Zomato price for two, right? If you understand, we all see that data, right? Now, the price for two, if it is 3,000 above, we know that that restaurant is, yeah, okay, it's like Michelin side or whatever, or there is 650. Imagine that particular data, if you bring it in your data story, it will give you one answer, at least a part of the answer, how premium is that locality. Now, the Michelin restaurant is not stupid enough to put their thing in a place where they will not have the premium audience, right? So, the idea that I'm trying to say, for this one, we understand that every grid, what are the premium locations, what is the POIs, which are the big restaurants which are there, premium banks being there, digital index, which says that how many people are using, our apps, how many people are using dining apps, how many. So there is a difference between my mom and dad and asking to go for a restaurant, booking 3 times, calling, vis-a-vis somebody who goes to an easy diner and books. There is a profile difference. There are indications in this data which can give you that profile difference. For ages, we are trying to find out how do we understand the potential of the grid. Now, that is where QSRs are doing great, because they have to open, dark kitchens versus only delivery center versus only restaurants where dine in with a big area. Where do they do what, right? The next one I want to talk about is roads. Now, obviously, when Bangalore people, we know that, biggest problem in our life is how do I cater that 5 kilometers is equal to how many hours, right? Now, imagine that the problem goes a little bigger, where somebody is on a vehicle who is a field force in, say, PNG or Unilever. They have to go to one kirana shop to the next kirana shop and try and replenish shampoos. If I have to do that, I have to be on time. Or banks, I've seen many, our friends are here. Banks, we have to send our ATM vehicle for cash replenishment. I do not have time to stuck in a traffic where like 5 hours one ATM is always temporarily out of cash, right? How do I make that happen seamlessly if I know that there is an optimization engine which uses, and I'm giving an example of road traffic because TomTom data is there, Garmin data is there, Believe me, guys, these data is available. Now, the question is, for getting this data, you have to go to many aggregators. If I throw this question, you will say that I went to X aggregator, second aggregator, third aggregator, fourth aggregator for different sources of data. Sentiment is one, and I'm going to cover that in next slide. So, if you look, that's why the title is No Business Function is Left Behind. I have a repository of external data. All my business functions in the organization has the power and the democratic right to use it. How do we make it available? How do I not wait for that use case? Now, if you look at a couple of more, like marketing mix, right? If you don't know the competitor, influence, your marketing activities does depend on competitor influence. Somebody is it will go up and down in one direction or the other. You need that. You have syndicate data. You have to get syndicate data in to help a marketing mix model. It will add a 20% uplift to your models. I can tell you from our experience, it does add a lot of uplift to your model. So these are all kinds of use cases, which obviously even finance for default prediction, call center, and I'm sure there are already people using it. How do you use voice tonality? How do you use how the person is sounding when? Now, this is not external data, this is internal data. Let's be very careful what we tag as external data. So we should be internalizing it as much as possible, is what the story is. To that, this is a very, I can talk about it for like next 2.5 hours also. But if you look at all the these are the types, okay, on the left hand side. So you have syndicate data across all of this. You have public data available, regulatory data, working with crop sciences, subsidy data. Tell me what format a subsidy data would be today. It will be in PDFs. If I take anybody in this audience randomly and ask 2 years ago, if I ask that, okay, let's have bunches of PDFs and we need to get this data, you would leave the project then and there because that will take 2 months to. But today, we are not scared because we have ways to read that data faster. Pharmaceutical industries today, medtech, any news which is coming up because there is a new innovation, the time for that news to reach us and our model to imbibe it should not be 1 month. It should be real time. Now, somebody might say, Moumita, what are you saying? Real time, we need some big machines in the corner of our room to do it. No, we need a proper planning. I'm going to talk about it in the last slide, where how do you plan yourselves to do all of this is what our question is. Digital, social media, I don't think anybody here in the audience needs any introduction to what kind of social media data people have been hankering for. I want LinkedIn, I want Twitter. We should be very careful what we want. It is given that you can't link them to your own customer data right away. But does it mean that you can't link them at all? No. You have to find out what I love the word called proxies. You will have to find out the next best proxy. The next best proxy for it is find out what is the hash at that particular location. You can give your digital acquisition strategies based on that. So, sentiments of a particular place, I have people with my digital product. I have many people throwing up sentiments. There are lots of positive sentiments about it. Do I plant my lead extraction policy there? So all of that will be digital. News, very underrated. I would say very, very underrated source. The amount of reactiveness, and I'm sure you guys all want to make what is the next step for our predictive models? What is our next step for scorecards? Our next step for our scorecards is how do we make our scorecards, the very famous word called self-learning, how do I make it more reactive? How should I make that if something is happening in the world, if COVID happens, believe me, nobody in this world, nobody in this room can tell I will be able to predict it. No, you can't. But can I react faster? Can I react that next time COVID-like news is coming, can I have an early warning signal? News is a fantastic source for an early warning signal. And the better you have ways to let it flow, the better it is. With that, I think Varun, if you want to just, obviously it is not easy, and let Varun talk about all his challenges
Yeah.
that he has on
So
getting
I
it.
think so primarily two things which just the slide talk about. So what are the ways organizations are normally ingesting this data? Obviously, it depends on your use case specifically. If the use case is just like a one-time use case or an annual use case, do we really want to just go for example, CFO wants to do an annual planning exercise and he wants to understand from a OECD or any kind of research report what kind of projections the market is saying. It can be an ad hoc approach. You just get the data, integrate, build the model, and take the learnings forward. The second is the normal models like market mix model, monthly forecasting models, where we need to build the pipelines, where we have to build the crawlers. If the crawlers are not working, can we use some automation tools like Automation Anywhere or UiPath, etc. We need to build those pipelines in well built, right? So that the model doesn't fail. Because a lot of decisions on a daily basis happens on the model performance. For example, telcos are being using running models. BFSI is running model on a daily basis. So these pipelines have to be built very well. The first is the last and is quite important, which primarily e-commerce organizations are using on a real-time basis. Where am I searching? Where am I clicking? Can I use the web stream? The person just opened the app. Can I send an online display message? Can I send an email notification on a real time? Right? So these kind of linkages has to be real time. You need Kafka streaming or other web streaming tools to get this data, do the algorithm, run the algorithm, and in maybe 5 minutes or half an hour maximum, you have to just send this message. So these kind of real-time approaches are also quite prevalent, which organizations are using to do this. Obviously, it's all good to do, but if you look from our challenges, there are multiple challenges. So we just look primarily from a few of the challenges like businesses are facing. The data market is very complex. We all want data. There are multiple data service providers. How should we go about it? What is the right data we are going to get from it? Will it be helpful? Will it not be helpful? These kind of questions always come to my mind. I'm working on multiple use cases. Do I need to have contracts with multiple parties? It's time consuming, right? So and costly affair. So the market is always complex, but we need to identify the right partners who we can imbibe with. The second is on the ROI. It's always a chicken and egg story. Business will always say, okay, you want to get this data, there is a paid subscription, but what is the additional incremental uplift you will be able to achieve with this? It's always tough, right? And these kind of questions will come. So how do we take it forward from there, identify with resources and see it move? I think Moumita will talk about it the next slide. The third is the regulation and governance. Some of the data is PI data. There are GDPR guidelines. There are repercussions on usage of this information. There is a D&D scrub list. So these kind of things we need to take into account from a business point of view. Okay, now we come to the analytics or technical challenges we face when we get this data. The data is coming in PDF, data is coming unstructured. There is a quality issue. Uh, there is a lot of quality issue. We thought the data would be good. The POC was fantastic. But when we are starting getting the data, there is a lot of missing values coming. The quality is not good. The accuracy of the information is not right. So how do we handle these kind of challenges? The preparation. A lot of data has to go to a multiple layer of preparation, outlier treatment, breaking from unstructured to structured. It consumes a lot of time. Does it even worth it? And after doing that, does it going to give me a ROI? That's a question which always comes to the analytics mind. And last and foremost, which is very important, is we have a customer base in our organization and I'm getting some external data. How can I integrate both of them? So very interesting case study. We were trying to build in the Great Recession attrition model. So our HR head said, why can't we just get the data from LinkedIn and map to the individuals of the employee in the organization? Obviously, it's not very easy. It's not very straightforward. At what people are talking on the Glassdoor, can you directly integrate with the employee data we have in the organization? It's not easy. You can only get a behavioral uh, uh, content, right? The analyst might be giving this kind of score, the consultant might be giving this kind of score, and then you can overlay. But that is a question which always comes, that how can we integrate? Can we use the cohorts of consumer personas and apply on our customer base? So that is the question which we need to answer. And will it going to give us an ROI? So I think these kind of questions, if we are able to manage, I think we can definitely move ahead in this journey. Moumita, you want to talk about how can we scale it up?
Right. So I think these are the challenges. Obviously, there is no straight answer to it. But one of the things which I've seen and going to cover a few leave you with a few tips at the end. But one of the things is, here org plays a very important role, like that ROI question. If one function of your organization is bearing the whole Hercules task of getting the external data, ROI is going to be a challenge. The good part, or the best way to handle it, and okay, this is one of the best ways of handling it, is that you actually, as an org, sit together and have one common external. How many times we have seen of overlapping data, like one part of the org has taken the same information, not data, is again replicated in another part of the org. It's best for an org level central team, and it could be a team which is formed across various parts of the organization, so that every representation is there, to have a common database of external data. Second one, which we have tried to solve, and I think it is equivalently solved, that we have, just for example, in Deloitte, we've created one an asset which we have done that hard work of getting the verity of each of these data tested. So it is very important that how do you get a stamping that this data is right. There is a cost of that mistake. So you can pass on that risk to some party, like, in Deloitte, we've done it like, we've taken that pain of building this up for like an aggregated data set. So that organizations like you do not have to go to individual data sets, but we've got all of them, what is required for the use case, properly plotted out. Data preparation. So when you're taking a data, or you are thinking that this is a use case, do not do at the time when the use case is there. So if you have a common repository for organizations, then to pipe it and bring it, almost like you can imagine there is a common data set of various kinds which might be required at any point of time, but you are pulling in from there, like your maybe IT or one function which holds it with every representation, that can solve the ROI question. The rest of it, I think we talked about. Regulation is important. So how do you make sure that you're asking the right question on the source of the data, making sure that the the verity of it is done, and making sure no personal information, it is all at a cohort, or what I talked about, lat long, because then the actor in play, you're doing a double derivative, almost saying you have customer lives in a location has some characteristics, hence the customer has that characteristic, I have a penetration, can I find out the gap? This route really works, and can give examples where merchandising decisions in an apparel store can be made based on what am I not serving. Because everybody knows what I'm putting. You are going into a store, you're seeing a red shirt because people in that store has bought red shirt. But did you put a yellow shirt because the other people, the yellow and red are very, you can substitute it by more difficult decisions, like putting a premium product or not premium product. Your location will give half of it. So why wait and be hell-bent on the fact that I want to link it to the customer? That is our own analytical thinking, where we have that kind of a tree diagram where where we have one primary key and we link it everything to the primary key. Why not have double derivatives? Create two layers of derivative and bring it back to the customer. So that will solve a few of this data quality and data prep. I would like to, I think, have a few tips for all of us. I like giving that gyan a little bit, so I would love to do that. For us to just think it over. Number one, and I'm sure all of us as analytics folks, we would have done this exercise of prioritizing use cases. When we do analytics journey, we say, what do we want to solve this year? Think about it, that I think it's time that an organization sits and lists down all the external data sources that they would like to, like IoT data sources or news data sources. So there might be 200 types of external data in the whole world flowing around. For your organization, maybe 50 are important. But do I know those 50? It is time that the organization sits and figures out that list and takes ownership at a central level. It's very important, and that will be a game changer of how we spend so much money on hankering on different aggregators. And therefore, priority, relevance, functional applicability, drawing up a roadmap. I haven't seen so far, but a few of the best cases where an organization has an external data roadmap. Think it over how it will really, really add value to all the functions of the organization. I think the last few list the source, know how to get it, and please let's not start procuring exactly when we are going to do the use case. You're going to derail for like half of the time. People give up on external sources because they are too near to the use case development. Do it early. Do it at a central level. Avoid duplication. No doubts about it. Marketing is doing it. Supply chain is doing it. Same information, double time, double money. Right? Let's not do that. Right? It's quite detrimental. This is one thing I want to stress upon. Even if you're not using the data now, you will have to keep the data flowing. And that is where central repositories are working. You need to have a frequency of your data flowing in. It cannot be one time, because next reason why people don't use external data is, are 5 years old data, how will I use it? How many times we would have done in hand on heart, right? So that is something which we should figure out. And the last one, which will come, yes, and this one, please, if the marketing function has got a data, you'll have to tell the organization, put your hands up and say, we have procured this data. Another function has got weather data. How do we know? I was talking to somebody. How do we know that weather data will not act upon my customer's purchase behavior? Bombay has rains. Person will not go and walk into a mall and do shopping. Yeah. So how do we know? We don't know. We have to get this experimentation saying, can I add weather data in my customer model and see whether it really works? You have to have it. The organization needs to, don't play that Chinese whisper, but really, really have a common repository, speak about it, evangelize, and then you will see you've got an external data ready organization. I will stop here and I will take questions.